Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Gaming Stooges Talks podcast. We are the Gaming Stooges.
I'm Jack.
You can call me Cloud.
And I'm Landon.
We hope you enjoyed today's discussion, and if you do, please consider subscribing to our YouTube channel, following us on Twitch, or joining our Discord. Let's get on with the show.
You know, I might not be a lover or a fighter, but I might be a platformer.
Ha-cha-cha-cha.
Landon did not like that one. Howdy, folks. Tonight's...
I really hope you're not recording our audio right now, so we have to redo this whole thing.
He hated it that much. Howdy, folks. Welcome to tonight's podcast, where we're going to talk about video game genres, specifically how they pertain to our tastes, what we like to play, what we grew up on, how that influenced what we play now. So I wanted to kind of just break the ice with a simple question just to start us off. And the first game that you remember playing, is it among your favorite genres, like top 2 or 3 genres?
Yeah.
It is?
Yeah, definitely.
I know for me, I think I could argue that it is as well.
I'm trying to remember what would technically be my first game.
The first game I can remember playing is Sonic 2.
And that's a platformer, and you like platformers, yeah. I would say, like, anything that's within, like, a super genre, so even if there's, like, a bunch of, like, large subgenres, I would still count it. Because for me, it's Super Mario Bros. 3, which is a platformer, and I would say that platformer, while it's not my top 1, it's still, like, top 3, probably number 2. If I'm going by, like, the major genres, it's my second favorite, so... yeah.
If we just make it easy and go by game, first game I remember owning, which is Pokemon, then yes.
Yeah.
Fuck if I remember what the first video game I played was at this point.
If it's the first one you remember playing, that's good enough.
Well, I probably played something before that.
So yeah, I think that's pretty interesting. Like, I don't know if there's that many people that like their favorite genre is like not even remotely related to like their first video game experience. Like, I have to think that like when someone got into video games and like their first experience with playing something, it would get them to want to play more of that thing. I wish we kind of had somebody on here that like didn't go with that. Like, let's say it was like Jack and he was just like, yeah, my favorite game is sports games, but my first game was Sonic the Hedgehog 2. It'd be kind of like interesting.
I mean,
Jack, pretend you like sports games.
Okay.
Action.
I mean, I do like sports games.
He does like sports.
But you only like sports. Okay, Jack, character.
Okay.
Only like sports games.
Okay. I only like sports games.
First game, Sonic the Hedgehog 2. Action.
Go.
My first video game was Sonic the Hedgehog 2. I only like sports games.
Yeah! Awesome.
Now what do you want to do with that, Cloud?
Yeah.
So I did want to ask, what would you guys say are like your top 3? So I'm sure we've all played a lot of genres and we like a lot of genres. I mean, I have like a list of games here, and like even with genres, it's probably like about more than a half dozen long. Just for the ones I like, not just ones I played. But I would say like out of the top 3 of those, it's really hard to pick like a top like 3. I know 2. I know obviously RPGs and platformers are like my 2 favorites. But I don't know what like a number 3 would be, because there's like just a lot of good genres. Like, I've played quite a bit of different fighting games. I've played quite a bit of shoot 'em ups. I've played quite a bit of racing games, and like I like all of these kinds of games a lot. But like, I don't know if like any of them would be like the one that would take it. I mean, I guess probably racing, because I still play lots of kart racers. I don't know, Jack, what would you say would be like your top 3?
I'm thinking about it,
because there's a lot of good genres.
It's tough to narrow it down to just 3. But I mean, platformers above all else for me. I mean, that's just my shit. But like,
that much is pretty obvious.
After that, probably I want to say JRPGs, but the thing is like I tend to avoid some of them just because they're always really long.
And I think that's kind of something we can get into, like.
But the thing is like when I get into a JRPG, like I really fucking get into it. So I do really like JRPGs. It's just like dedicating the time to one.
What do you think about like you think like rhythm games might be a big one for you? I mean, I know you like to play a lot of music games.
I cannot deny.
But I don't know. What would you say? It's like a top 3, or would you say it's like just outside?
I was kind of torn. I think I would probably say like action adventure.
That's a good
for number 3.
Choice, yeah.
I mean, like, you know, that
stuff like
Zelda.
Yeah, stuff like Zelda.
But like, yeah, it's hard to say for sure, but like rhythm games are up there too. It's very hard to fuck up a rhythm game, and usually it comes down to the soundtrack.
Yeah,
but
true.
like a good rhythm game is always like a good time in my book.
Okay, Landon, what would you say would be like your top like favorite?
I would say casino game, horror game, and idle game.
he picked like
not gacha, unless that counts as casino game.
Probably something.
Oh no,
no.
Wikipedia has it listed separate.
Oh.
Gacha is a separate from casino because casino specifically.
Yeah,
like
so it has to be like cards.
Slots, pachinko,
that's
blackjack,
video gaming, Landon.
Video gaming.
Video gaming.
Yeah, that's separate. There's video gaming, and then there's
video gaming. Huge difference.
So I guess
that's
I would
funny.
Change my entire selection to photography games.
You really into Pokemon Snap?
I was gonna say, yeah, really big fan of Pokemon Snap and Fatal Frame. Like those are his only 2 series that he plays.
Or Christian game.
Ooh, true.
I love me some The Bible.
The Bible game.
The Bible game. What a classic.
Classic. Never played it.
That NES cult classic Noah's Ark or whatever it was.
True.
If I had to pick actual like things I like, I would say turn-based Japanese RPGs. I'm gonna go
real specific.
highly specific on that.
Real specific.
Because if I said RPG, I would immediately also cut out like a lot of RPGs if we're being real. I'm gonna be like, my actual favorite genre would be like turn-based Japanese style RPGs.
Yeah,
I would say is like
turn-based
here.
Eastern
now
RPGs.
there are even like sub genres in that I would still like your strategy RPG, like your Fire Emblems, your Valkyria Chronicles. I do like those. And I would say those are also like within the same bandwidth of like your Dragon Quests, your more traditional, or your like collectathon type RPGs, like your creature collector games, like
Monster
Pokemon,
Tamer stuff,
your Digimons, yeah, Monster Tamers. So like even like my highly specific isn't even like specific enough.
That's true.
Let's dig into it. Let's go even further.
Yeah.
This is to go even further beyond.
So that's like your
beyond
number
that,
one.
of a super pisser.
Of a super pisser.
Yeah. Next would probably be, and then now I'm just gonna go the opposite. I will say platformers.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to whittle them down. Like we'll get into it because like I think I might have a preference when it comes to like which like platforms I gravitate to.
I'm a little all over the place. It depends on my mood. And then after that, it is definitely a grab bag of whatever I'm feeling like, because I could say I like puzzle games, or I like
hack and slash
strategy games.
I like Metroidvanias. Like,
well, that would be under platformer. Remember, we had this whole conversation.
True.
It's true.
Yeah, Metroidvanias are...
You're like just sucking that up. We had a whole other podcast where we talked about this.
Yeah, we talked about it on our 2D platformer podcast. Go check that out. Anyway, yeah, that third slot becomes a little bit harder for sure. It could be like turn-based tactics. For a while, I like tower defense games, especially like those shitty, cheap Flash ones.
Really?
Balloons.
That you could play. Yeah, balloons where you're the monkey throwing darts and shit like that. I like real-time strategies like Pikmin, but I'm very specific on my real-time strategies. It's like, I don't like all real-time strategies, so it's like, I'm like Cloud, where it's like that third slot
You like
is very open.
It's Pikmin, Age of Empires, and that's it.
Pretty much
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the Age of and Pikmin, and that's it. We're good.
That's all you need.
But I really like those games.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what would you guys say is like just an example of like a couple of games that really like kind of defined one of your favorite genres. Because I definitely have to say, like, if I was thinking about it, so like here's a funny thing with me. So when it comes to RPGs, for turn-based ones, I mean, it's a pretty obvious one. My first game was Pokemon Red, because I'd never played a game in this genre before, and because in every other time I've ever played a video game, there was either a side-scrolling aspect, so as long as you kept going, more of the area would load, or if it was like a top-down thing, like I played stuff like Goof Troop, The Legend of Zelda, there was clear indicators of where to go to transition to the next screen. And even in like ratchet scrolling, like screen-by-screen 2D platformers like Mega Man, similar situation. There's like a, you know, an idea of where you're supposed to go next. In some RPGs that are like top-down view, that is not always the case unless you've played an RPG already, so you know. So I've said this story before, but I think it's kind of funny. My first experience with Pokemon Red, I didn't even know how to leave my house. Like, I figured out that the stairs allowed me to go up and down. I did not know that the carpet was the exit, and because it was just a straight box, I was just like, how do I get out of here? Like, is there more areas supposed to like pop out so I can see it? Like, where am I going?
See, I at least got further than that. I just got lost trying to get to the next town.
I mean, I eventually figured it out, obviously, but no, like, I think I probably spent like a good solid like 10 minutes not knowing where I was supposed to go. Like, it's a core memory, so I have to have lasted a substantial amount of my day when I first picked up the game. But yeah. That is like my main thing for like turn-based RPGs, but I have played a decent amount of action RPGs, and the game that actually would start that would be EVO: The Search for Eden on the Super Nintendo. Kind of a deep cut. That's a pretty lesser known game, published by NX actually, fun fact. But you play through different time periods as some creature that lived in that time period, and then you can beat up the other like creatures of that time period and then eat them and then evolve into supposedly stronger forms, and then you fight a boss at like the end of each era, and it's really weird. I don't know how else to explain it, but apparently I really like the idea of killing enemies and then augmenting my character based on what I killed.
It's just, you know, custom robo, or
I should probably play Custom Robo. I haven't played it before.
Mobile Suit Gundam.
Really? I haven't.
You know, your goddams. You know, where you can like beat up someone in your goddams, and you take like one of their parts.
But yeah, so like that's just as an example, like how I got into that specific genre, both from the action and the turn-based perspective. And I also played like some other like weird ones, like I played Threads of Fate on the PS1. That was an action RPG, but it was like kind of like hack and slashy. It's weird because you go through like these tiny, like bite-sized areas, and it's 3D, but like it's kind of a small scale game. So it's more like going point A to point B, but like you level up your HP and MP based on like using your magic to actually like use your magic points to do stuff, and then you would slowly increment it, and then like you would get more HP just by taking damage, which was weird. So like if you really wanted to, you could just like sit in the first area and just like have the enemy beat up on you for a bit and just have your like max HP just gradually increase.
It's weird.
It is weird, right? And then the only way to increase your attack and defense is to like get the money, and it's expensive by the way, to buy these upgrades at a shop. It was very basic. I guess it was an action RPG, but it was much more heavily just like the hack and slashy aspect, and less so the RPG, because it was very weird. It was very basic.
90% action.
But I mean, it would introduce me to like more stuff like Kingdom Hearts later down the line, where it's a little bit more involved. So
Al did make a correction for my earlier comment when I was talking about the goddams.
The Gundam Breaker games.
Specifically, the goddamn Breaker games.
Yeah, that's fair. I don't know, Jack, what was your like first like few exposures to RPGs? I think that's kind of an is it Pokemon, or is there more?
It's Pokemon, yeah.
It's Pokemon.
I've told this story before, but I got stuck trying to set the clock in Pokemon Ruby.
Yeah.
Didn't know how to do it. Had to have a friend help me. But once I figured out like basic shit like pressing A on something interacts with it, yeah, I figured it out.
Do you know how analog clocks work?
It wasn't the clock itself. It was literally pressing A on the clock to set it. And then once I set the clock, actually confirming it. Because if I remember correctly, you press B once you're done to like back out of it.
I think so.
Instead of like, and I for some reason just had not occurred to me to press B. I was a stupid child.
I was just hoping you were dumb enough that you didn't know like how to tell time.
No, I know how to tell time. I'm pretty sure
yeah?
I knew. I'm pretty sure I knew that at that age anyway.
What time is it on my hands right now?
From my perspective or from your perspective?
I was gonna say that's a question.
I don't know.
Which hand
I
is?
Don't know.
Which hand is the little hand? It's
This one.
This one.
From your perspective, it's 4 p.m. or 4 a.m. I don't know. From my perspective, it's 8.
Yeah,
You win this round.
it's like 4, 8, or yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Did you play
Anyway.
any? Did you play any non like turn-based RPGs early on, or was it like mostly like?
Not really. Not that I can think of. I didn't really get into RPGs as a whole beyond Pokemon until I was probably a teenager, honestly.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of for me. Like, I mean, I mentioned all of these action RPGs, and I played more of those when I was younger.
Yeah.
But I didn't play more turn-based stuff until probably when I jumped into Final Fantasy VII for the first time when I was 13. That, or maybe I played Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga before that, but it's probably Final Fantasy VII. But like it was around that time when I like became a teenager. Basically, I went from playing a lot of like I definitely took a huge turn in what I was playing, because I went from playing mostly platformers with some Pokemon, a lot more racing games at the time. Like I was playing stuff like Need for Speed a lot. I was playing some Gran Turismo. I mean, obviously I had Mario Kart. I was playing that magical Racing Tour Disney game that I've mentioned a couple of times here and there on the channel. I've played a few other games that I can't really remember off the top of my head. I think there was like a Looney Tunes racing game as well on the PlayStation. So I was a big racing fan, particularly kart racers. I haven't played as much of them since, because RPGs take a lot of time, and I've realized that I like the strategy elements and the numbers of RPGs, and I gave up on some other genres, and I guess racing was one of those genres that I was like, okay, I'm done playing as much of these. I did also used to play a lot more sports games before I got into RPGs as a whole.
I did too, actually, but like when I was a kid, and I mean like a young kid, when I was like fresh into my GameCube era, most of what I had early on was like sports games and racing games, because those were the games my dad bought, and those were the games he wanted to play, and I was like into them too. But like I would say I like most of what I really liked genre wise was like Pokemon at the time.
Yeah, let's just keep talking about RPGs though. And how did you really like? Besides, like, was there anything else besides Pokemon that you played like at the time? What was the first time you played Paper Mario?
Paper Mario, I was pretty young. That was like one of the 4, really 3, 64 games I had. It was Pokemon Stadium, Pokemon Snap, and Paper Mario were like the 3 64 games like I got new. And then my brother was getting rid of his 64, and he was getting rid of Mario Kart 64, and so I got that as part of that. So those were like my 4 64 games. I think by the time I got that, the GameCube was already a thing. But anyway, yeah, Paper Mario was like one of the only. It was like Paper Mario, and I was double checking. Like I was going through like my Game Boy Advance and like some of the other systems, GameCube, just to double check what I would have played younger, and it was just Paper Mario and Pokemon.
Okay.
Probably until like middle school, and then that's probably when I started playing like other RPGs.
Okay.
On the like DS and stuff. Like Lost Magic, I think is the first. It's the first one I can clearly remember. It was a very early DS release where you would like draw the spell that you wanted to use in the game. Yeah.
Okay. It's a pretty interesting set. I just remembered, so there was one of the earlier RPGs I tried to play. I think I was probably, and this was actually how I got Threads of Fate. Fun story. Before Threads of Fate, I got a copy. I don't know how this was like my first Final Fantasy experience, but I got a copy of Final Fantasy Tactics. I had no idea what I was doing. That game was hard because I was like 9 or 10 years old, knew nothing about strategy RPGs, and the game was really hard because of all of like the grid. I was like, what is this? And I lost the first battle of the game. Well, not technically the first.
Yeah.
The first battle is kind of like an autopilot battle because most of the units you can't control. But the first battle, you have full control over everybody. I just lost that battle. I did not know what I was doing, so I like found somebody that had Threads of Fate, and I was like, I asked if they wanted to swap games, and luckily they like agreed. Like we swapped games, and I was perfectly happy with Threads of Fate, and I guess they must have been happy with Final Fantasy Tactics. Eventually, I would go back and buy Tactics to give it another chance. But yeah, that's how I got into Threads of Fate in the first place, was because I didn't know what to do, so I traded the game for it.
I feel like, well, I also did that. Actually, that reminds me. I had played the Mega Man Battle Network. Which one was it? 4 Blue Moon. Is that right?
I'm gonna assume you are correct because there's too many goddamn Battle Network games.
There's a lot. I played one of them. And I owned that because I traded the Legend of Zelda Link to the Past 4 Swords with my brother for the Mega Man game, because I saw the show and I was like, I know that. It's definitely another case of I feel like the other person got the better of the deal in the long run.
Yeah, sometimes that happens. I remember I traded away one of my, I can't remember which game it was, but I remember trading away a game for I think I don't remember what the game that I traded away was, but they had given me I want to say it was like the Banjo Pilot Game Boy Advance game, and it wasn't all that great. Like, I remember playing it and it was like fine, but like, I was enjoying it as a kid because it was like, oh, I got this game that I traded with another kid, but the parent never okayed the trade and I got back the game that I had. I think the game was actually like something that was like better for me to own, but I don't remember which game it was. So
Threads of Fate.
For the Game Boy Advance, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
But yeah, I mean, RPGs are like a big thing for like all of us, so I'm sure we have like stories of like weird like first encounters with like different aspects of the series of the genre rather. Like, I didn't have a whole lot of experience with strategy RPGs until I eventually would get into Final Fantasy Tactics later on. I think probably probably after that was Disgaea, and that wasn't until I was already like an adult. I think I was like probably at least 18, maybe 19. So
fucking adult. Wow.
Yeah. It's crazy to say that like 14 years ago I was still an adult already. Which really puts things into perspective how old we're getting.
That's not real.
But yeah, we can get more into like formative RPGs I'm sure over the course of the podcast, but another big genre for all of us has been platformers. So Jack, you said that you played Sonic 2, so that was obviously...
I mean, like, I did not own it for a very long time, but like I had a like cousin who had a Genesis.
Yeah.
And when I was a young child, he would pretend to let me play as Tails, because playing as Tails in this game is just like you don't really do anything.
Yeah, true.
Unless it's a boss fight. But anyway, that's like the earliest memory I have. But like
You must have played like some other
mean,
games in the genre. Like,
yeah, I mean, like I'm trying to think of like what I had early on. Mario 3 was a big one. Super Mario Advance 4, Mario 3 specifically, and Mario World. Honestly, the Mario Advance series on Game Boy Advance was like pretty huge for me. But like specifically Mario World and Mario 3. But like,
yeah, you were just
trying to think of what else.
We were
trying to think of, Sonic Advance. Sonic Advance was huge for me as a kid.
Okay.
Like all of those games.
I say,
like I loved those.
We're only 3 years apart, but that 3 years is all it took between the Game Boy Color and the Game Boy Advance. So like you grew up on a lot of Game Boy Advance stuff because of that.
I mean, you know, the Game Boy Advance was the first system I ever owned, so that's like what I was playing a lot of games on when I was a kid.
Yeah.
So yeah, like Sonic Advance and the Super Mario Advance series were pretty big, and then, you know, all of the fucking Sonic GameCube games.
Oh yeah.
As a child.
Oh yeah.
Like you could, there was so fucking much you could play on the GameCube as far as Sonic goes. You had Sonic Adventure DX, you had Sonic Adventure 2 Battle, Sonic Heroes, Shadow the Hedgehog, fucking Sonic Mega Collection, Sonic Gems Collection, Sonic Riders, although that's a different genre, but like platformer-wise, that's still a shit ton.
Yeah.
Practically the whole series.
Honestly.
I was gonna say at that point, except for the stuff that was, you know, locked to the handheld titles, specifically Game Boy Advance. Yeah. I mean, I don't.
But you could still only like 3 games.
Yeah.
That goes to show just how eager Sega was to be like, all right, let's put Sonic everywhere we can.
We're done with consoles. We're putting Sonic everywhere.
Yep. I definitely played a lot of Mario 3. That was like my first big platformer. I played a lot of Sonic 2 and Sonic 1 because I mentioned this before, but my sister had like this value pack cartridge and it has Sonic 1, Sonic 2, and Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine on it. More on that later. But the next platformers that would really get me into the genre was actually on the PlayStation, because when my family got the PlayStation, our first games were Crash Bandicoot 2 and I think the original Spyro the Dragon. They were definitely like games we got around the same time, and I remember playing those a lot. I did play the first Crash game quite a lot too. Never actually beat the first game. I don't even remember if I beat the second game, to be honest with you. The third game I never actually got to play a whole lot of. I think I had borrowed it, but I was so into Spyro the Dragon that like I didn't really play that much Crash after. I like got more into the series, and they released a new one every year, so like I was just like, what's a Crash Bandicoot? I want to go frolic around these weird worlds of this purple dragon. Those and I guess I don't know why I have such strong memories of playing one of I think it was Kirby's Dream Land 2, or I'm pretty sure it was Kirby's Dream Land 2, because I remember playing it on the on I believe a Super Nintendo with the Super Game Boy accessory. So that was like an early platformer that like really clicked with me, which is probably what eventually got me to pick up more Kirby games like later on. I just remember I was like at like a cousin's house or something, and like he had it hooked up, and I was like, ooh, video game. I want to play video game that I don't have. So they let me play it. So it's like those 5, they still stick with me to some extent. You got your Spyro, Crash, Kirby, Sonic, Mario. Bunch of different consoles across those two.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I would say easily the ones for me that stand out as like early were Mario and Sonic. I remember watching and playing the early Spyros. I watched I guess it was a stepsister at the time. No longer. Did they get married? I guess they got married. I don't even remember. It was very short-lived. Anyway, Spyro, when we went over to that house, he had 2 like older daughters who like one of them played a lot of Spyro.
Oh.
And so, and then that, and then I remember playing it at like your grocery store. I'm pretty sure I talked about this when grocery stores had like the play areas,
Right, yeah.
or like when your dentist had like a system. I remember like one of those had like a PlayStation with a Spyro to play. So I do remember playing Spyro on those, or watching people do that. But I never really got into Spyro myself, which I don't know. I guess it wasn't Pokemon, so I did not prioritize it growing up.
I've always,
It's
yeah.
not Pokemon?
I don't
need it.
You've never come off as like a PS1 guy.
It's because I'm definitely not.
There you go. Simple answer.
And I have nothing against the PlayStation. Like,
Yeah.
there's a lot of good games, and I recognize a lot of good games that came out on the PlayStation. Castlevania Symphony of Night, Chrono Cross is like a solid one. You've got, the early Resident Evils all came out on PlayStation. But, like,
Just
I didn't own a PlayStation 1. I didn't even have, like, my stepbrother, who I would say is, like, one of my bigger influences where I get a lot of stuff I like. I don't really remember him playing a PlayStation 1. He played a lot of, like, they had, like, a Genesis and a Nintendo, either Super Nintendo or NES. He had a Nintendo 64, which is why I really got into Paper Mario. And he had a GameCube. And then a PlayStation 2, I remember him playing Twisted Metal on that. That one stands out a lot. But, like, PlayStation 1 was just not something I really remember, like, just in the vicinity. So, it just never stuck with me.
Me neither.
Hey.
I also
I'm like the one
did not get into
PS1
video
guy
games
here.
until after the PS2 was out already, so
True.
Yeah.
there you go.
It's like my PlayStation was a PlayStation 2. So,
Yeah.
It's funny too, though, because for me, like, I would definitely say that, like, the 3D platformers, especially, I had more formative experiences with PlayStation 1. Because, like, there's some really good 3D platformers on both systems. I mean, if you're looking at the N64, you've got Super Mario, you've got the Banjo-Kazooie games, just as an example of a couple. And then on PlayStation 1, you've got Crash, Spyro, or Ape Escape. So, like, you have this, like, no matter which system, you were going to have, like, an incredible 3D platformer to play. No matter what. I happen to be somebody that, like, leaned more towards PlayStation, because I'll say outside of Mario 64, didn't play a whole lot of N64 3D platformers. And I know there's a lot more. Like, I mean, obviously you got Donkey Kong 64. You've got I'm trying to think of ones that, like, did not come out on both systems. Because, I mean, there's stuff like Glover, which would end up coming out on both systems, and apparently is better on the PS1. I don't know. I didn't play the PS1 version. I played the N64 version, and I didn't get very far. I don't know why I brought up Glover. I think I remember trading my copy of Super Mario 64 for Glover. That was a really bad deal. That was a really bad deal.
No, Cloud, that's an incredible deal.
No, it's
It's an incredible deal for someone else.
Yeah, somebody else. Not for me. I gave up Super Mario 64 for fucking Glover. And
That's fucking hilarious.
and I think,
Classic
and I'm
trade.
pretty sure I kind of stopped playing N64 after that.
You know? Yeah, that makes sense.
Like, or at the very least, I didn't play any more platformers on N64. Like, I played Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. I played Smash Brothers. I had already played a bunch of Mario Kart 64 before I had played Glover. So, I think I played, like, Mario Party 3. That's about it. Like, I didn't bother with 3D platformers on the N64. Thanks, Glover.
I mean, yeah,
Thank you,
thanks,
Glover.
Glover. You played Peak. There's no reason to play anything inferior.
True. Jack, you're more of a 3D platformer on N64 guy.
I mean, I didn't have a 64 growing up, but I had a friend who had a 64 growing up, so I would play games on that.
Is that how you play
Yeah, I like
Banjo-Kazooie?
yeah, Banjo-Kazooie. Yeah, that's how I played Banjo-Kazooie when I was a kid. I mean, Banjo-Kazooie, Mario 64 is a classic, even if it's not my favorite. Landon gave me a really dirty look when I said that.
No, that was Cheese was trying to like climb on top of me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but
I said Mario. I said Mario 64 is a classic, and you were just like,
ugh.
Well, we already got a spoiler for
say that?
we got a spoiler for the 3D Mario podcast.
Oh God, no! Let's never do another podcast.
hey, I mean that one would be.
This is the last episode. Thanks everybody.
All right, we're done. I guess
it's been a great time.
Yep. Bye, everyone.
Okay, bye.
Yeah. Trying to think of other. I mean, Donkey Kong 64. I played a little bit of. I can't remember too much else, like platformer wise, on the 64 that I had a ton of experience with.
I think it kind of.
Kirby 64, but that's a 2D platformer,
Yeah.
not a 3D.
I was gonna say it kind of like.
I'm drawing a blank on anything else.
I do think that with like 3D platformers, there's a lot of like early parts of the following generation that like come into play for that sort of thing. Because I mean,
Yeah.
you have stuff like on the GameCube, as you've already mentioned, you've got Sonic Adventure 2 Battle. You had, because I mean, let's be real. Even though like there was Sonic Adventure and Sonic Adventure 2 on the Dreamcast, I think the majority of people who at least the majority of people I talked to that played it back when it was on the GameCube. But you got Mario Sunshine on the PS2.
True.
You've got the Jack games, the Sly Cooper games, the Ratchet and Clank games, which I think is really interesting. That like I feel like each one of us leans towards one different of those three. Like I know that Jack, you played a lot of Ratchet and Clank, but you also were like pretty big on Jack, right?
I mean, it's hard to choose a favorite between the two. At least in terms of like the PS2 games. I mean, I'd say overall I probably like Ratchet more, but like that's including like the future games on the PS3. So
right.
But
if you're talking like
no, I mean
just
like
the PS2 games,
strictly just the PS2. Yeah, I mean I love the Jack trilogy and I love the Ratchet trilogy too. So I mean, but like if I had to choose between the two, I would probably pick Jack. But just as a whole, I don't know. I don't know.
Just the PS2 games.
Just the PS2 games.
Just PS2 games. What would you say you left a bigger impression on you at the time when like you were growing up playing them?
Honestly, probably Ratchet and Clank.
Okay.
Like thinking about it.
Yeah. I mean, that for me, that's obvious. Like, I only played the first two Sly Cooper games, and I only played a portion of the first Jack game, but I played through all four of the PS2 Ratchet games. Like, I was a huge-ass Ratchet fan. Like, and I mean, that's coming off of the fact that I was also a big Spyro fan, because I was... So basically, I was... Where everybody else was, like, you know, into, like... for me, like, that was the kind of, like, I guess... company that I knew I liked their games growing up and I want to play them. So
yeah, it's just crazy that like you have just the sheer variety and like how many classic games you get from like 3 different mascot franchises had each 3 games, like 3 main series platformers on the PS2, and you could argue that all 9 of them are great games.
Yeah.
You could.
Yeah.
But we're not going to.
I would.
I'm going to argue they're all bad games.
Even the Sly Cooper?
Even the...
Damn,
wow, even
okay.
Sly Cooper, wow.
All right, well...
I'm in my naughty phase tonight.
But not the naughty dog phase, because that's...
No.
Oh, that's Jack and Daxter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I'm not about that.
Exactly.
No.
God.
I'm in my Sonic Heroes phase, because that was definitely the 3D platformer I was into at this time.
Yeah.
And Sly 1 and 3, but...
I did play quite a bit of Sonic Heroes, yeah.
I did too, honestly. I mean, the first weekend I owned Sonic Hero. I mean, I beat it in a weekend. Like, But like I was glued to my fucking TV when I was playing that for the first time.
Yeah,
Like that
despite
and Shadow
its
the Hedgehog,
controls.
I was like really into because they were Sonic games I could play on my system.
I remember
I
didn't have a GameCube at the time. I was like really, really happy with like what I played of Sonic Adventure 2 Battle from my cousin that when I was in foster care, like they came over with their GameCube and I think they bought Sonic Adventure 2 Battle, so like I got to play it a lot. So I loved what I got to play of that. So I eventually would play Sonic Heroes on the PS2. Yeah, unfortunate for me, right?
Gross.
Yeah. I think I also played Shadow the Hedgehog originally on the PS2 as well. Again, gross. Exactly, gross. Thank God I eventually played them on GameCube.
I have a funny, not a confession, but like I don't know if I've ever shared this before. My mom would not let me have Shadow the Hedgehog when I was a kid.
That's funny.
Hell yeah.
That's funny.
Even though I was 10 years old when the game came out and the game was rated E10+, she said no because he was holding a gun.
Surprisingly, I got that as a birthday gift from my older half-sister.
Huh.
I think that's the only reason why I got it, because I'm pretty sure my mom would have done the same thing.
Here's the funny thing. My mom actually didn't care. I remember I had played a bunch of Sonic Heroes, and I got really excited because I was like, Mom, this game has the character I really like from this other game. Can I have it? And I guess I got it. Like, it didn't take much. I ended up getting it. Me and my fucking stupid little, 13-year-old Sonic autism phase. I love the shit out of that game.
I love my mom, but like I'm kind of jealous of people who grew up with parents who didn't give a shit about what like media they were consuming.
I mean, let's be fair. My mom would not let me touch stuff like Grand Theft Auto or like M-rated shit.
Oh yeah.
But like even if it was like something stupid, like if it was within reason, like something like that, she'd be like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, my mom unfortunately fully bought in on the like violent video games cause brain damage. I think like bullshit.
I think it probably helps that by the time Shadow the Hedgehog had come out, I had already played through the Ratchet and Clank series. So my mom already watched me play games with lots of guns and explosions because that was literally Insomniac's follow-up series. So she was like, all right. Look at that point. It was like, whatever.
But yeah, I had to play Shadow the Hedgehog through a friend's house.
Did you steal it from him?
No, just played it there.
You should have.
Okay.
Al said he got Shadow the Hedgehog for Christmas and then it got stolen and then he stole it back. That's badass.
Live like Al. Steal
Fuck
back.
Yeah.
No,
steal and then steal back.
Actually, that reminds me of a story. So going back to like the RPGs, so like I was big into Pokemon Ruby when I had that game, and this was before I even got a Game Boy Advance SP, so this was like early Pokemon Ruby period. Like this was before Fire and Leaf Green even come out. Like I was 11 years old, for sure. I had these friends who I played with around the neighborhood, and I think I was the only one that had a Game Boy Advance. They had PS2s. They were how I played the Dragon Ball games when I was growing up. Like that was my exposure to Dragon Ball games. But one of them decided he wanted to be a little shithead, and he took my Game Boy Advance when I didn't look, and I went and like I figured I went to, and here's the thing, we all live on like the same street, like a house or two apart. So like it was very easy to go to one friend's house and be like, did you have this game? Did you take my game? And the first one that I went to was like, no, I didn't. So I went to the next one's house, and it was sitting right there on the table in the living room. And apparently his mom was scolding him because she caught him stealing the thing. She just didn't know who it belonged to, because as soon as I knocked on the door and I pointed at it and I went and I rushed in and I grabbed my game back, and I just hear the mom fucking going ballistic on her son as I leave and just go back home. I never really talked to that friend ever again. I did proceed.
That's amazing.
I did proceed to play with the other friend more because like he was cool. He was how I got into. I think he was my first exposure to Halo. We played more Dragon Ball and stuff like that. But I never talked to that other friend ever again.
Fuck yeah.
He took my Pokemon. He took my Pokemon game. Like
he took your Pokemon.
You take Pokemon? You can't take Pokemon.
Yeah, fucking Team Rocketed me.
But anyway, that was a good story. But like, this is the Genres podcast, and we've been talking about.
Pokemon is a genre.
Pokemon is a genre.
I mean, to be fair, like if it weren't for those like experiences with Pokemon, though, like my connection to that, I would have never played Final Fantasy VII. I would have never played Legend of Dragoon. I definitely am not sure if I would have kept playing turn-based RPGs after playing Digimon World 3, because I remember it was one of the first turn-based RPGs I played that was not Pokemon, because I got it right when it had come out, because I'd been watching the anime at the time, which it was, the one where like they can turn into the Digimon, and I noticed, oh hey, there's this game that has those Digimon in it, and also Digimon, I'm into Digimon right now, so I played it, and I remember just having to spend a really long time fighting the same Digimon over and over to get experience, and that is kind of a miserable way to get introduced to the role-playing genre outside of Pokemon. So I'm thinking about it, and did you also play Digimon World?
No, God no. I think I want to say the first non-Pokemon RPG I ever played was Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door.
That's decent. Decent choice.
That probably tracks.
It's either that or Mario and Luigi Partners in Time. Because I remember playing Partners in Time before Superstar Saga when I was a kid. But like the first, like, I guess, like traditional JRPG that I, like non-Pokemon traditional JRPG that I ever like played to completion, I think was Chrono Trigger on the DS.
Nice. Good choice.
Yeah. I know I got into Persona around the same time too.
Yeah.
Like
I think I remember you were on the GameSpot boards at the time, right?
I was on the GameSpot boards at the time.
You were like big into Persona 4, right?
Oh yeah.
Just come out.
Persona 4 was a big one for me.
Yeah.
Back then.
There was a lot of people talking about Persona 4 on our Union board.
True. Back in the day.
Shout out to All Out Nintendo, where we talked about PS2 games.
We talked about whatever the fuck.
We
didn't care.
I didn't.
No, Landon did not.
No.
I didn't talk about whatever.
The only thing that Landon would do is he would pop in, tell us what he was playing in the "What Are You Playing" thread, and then leave.
Wasn't there also a "What Are You Listening To" thread?
I think so.
True.
Yeah, that too.
I remember that.
That's true too.
And then also the RPGs.
Yeah. That's basically it.
You're like,
I was too busy playing Tory Bash, people.
Playing Tory Bash and listening to Streetlight Manifesto.
Yes.
That's all you need to tell people.
That's what
that's
I mean.
That's all they need to know.
I mean, I only really got into Streetlight Manifesto. Was that my sophomore year? I feel like it was definitely like slightly later.
It was, hey, yo, we've never mentioned it on this podcast. Shout out to the Serious Gamers podcast.
Yeah. This, fun fact, is not my first podcast.
It's true.
Yeah.
If you want to listen to proto Gaming Stooges, and by that I mean just Landon and his friends, go listen to the Serious Gamers podcast.
God, is that still up? Because I kind of want to check it out.
I'm pretty sure you can still find it.
That's awesome.
It would be on my personal YouTube channel.
And that's spelled C letter C dash RIUS. Is that right?
Yeah, it was serious, but with
the letter C instead of SE.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
It was a forum. It was another forum I was on at the time, and I don't even remember how or why we decided to do it, but we were like, we're going to do a podcast.
And that was like
and
way before podcasts were like big too.
It was. And like we did like the big episode where it was like the four of us, and then we had like I had the minis where it was just like me reading news or some shit.
That's weird. It's interesting.
That's awesome.
It's fucking insane. I didn't know how mics work. And so I thought it was my speakers that were attached to the computer. I didn't realize the computer tower had an internal mic set up.
Mm.
And so that's what like captured all of our voices, because we tried to do it on a friend's laptop and it was like, these aren't working. And we're like, oh well.
That's funny.
God, that's really
I
funny.
If you want some stories, there's some, but that is where because there was like Connor had watched a YouTube video that used Somewhere in the Between as like in the background, and that's where he was like, we should use this for the like intro, because otherwise like we would have not come up on anything, and that's why I got into Straight Light Manifesto.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Origin story.
Yeah, shoutouts to the cold-hearted complainer.
Shout out Connor.
I want to build off of that period of time. So around that time was actually when I started playing a series that would take what I want to jump to a new genre, and I'm gonna.
I also want to jump to a new genre.
I'm gonna mention this genre, but I don't expect you guys to have a whole lot to say. I actually be fine with you guys talking about like another genre of yours. That's because this is around the point where I think we're gonna start diverging some of the genres we like. But so I'm gonna say the series that I started to play, and then I'm gonna work backwards. So around that period of GameSpot history was when I would find
I know where this is
Toho, yes.
Yeah.
And that was like the big thing that like made me like shoot 'em ups. But I'd actually played quite a lot of shoot 'em ups before that. So like I don't get to talk about this a lot. Even though I did grow up on a lot of like NES and later games. I played a shit ton. I mean a shit ton of arcade titles that were like would be ported over a lot, especially Namco stuff. But I mean, I played a lot of Space Invaders. I played Galaga. One of my favorites was Bosconian. I don't know if you guys know what Bosconian is, but
I've never heard of that in my life. You made that up.
No, it is. It's a real game. Bosconian is pretty legit. So like, instead of being like locked to like a certain part of the screen, you actually get to freely move around a space, and then there'd be these like big ships that have multiple pieces that have to be shot down, and you have to find all of them in a level. You have to shoot all of the pieces, and then you'd be able to blow up the ship. So you had to basically go around, blow all the ships up, and then you'd move on to the next level, and it'd be harder and harder. And the ships would fire back at you. You'd have these other enemy ships that would be flying at you, and your ship was about the size of a Galaga ship. So it was similar to Galaga in like graphical style, but you had a lot of free roaming movement, and it felt sort of like an adventure shoot 'em up sort of thing for what it was. Because I mean, this is a really like early 1980s, late 1970s game. Like this is pre-Mario, so like, you know, calling it an adventure game is a bit of a stretch, but you did have free movement. So like that kind of game,
pretty cool.
That kind of game was like what got me into like wanting to play like, oh, I like these games where like you get to move around on a screen and shoot stuff. I never really got to translate that into like first person shooters. Like I've never really been that big on them. I always like those like top down shooters, or like sometimes I like the side left and right shooters, but those are few and far between. I don't play nearly as much of those. But yeah, Toho definitely got me into a lot of them. Like I have a bunch of shoot 'em ups on my Switch now because of Toho. So like thanks to, and I mean that's all thanks to Galaga, really. Galaga, Bosconian, and Space Invaders. So if I hadn't played those games, I probably would have had no interest in that sort of genre. So that's another genre I really like. I definitely have others that I can talk about, but I want to like throw it to one of you guys to like pick up a genre that is not as really covered by like the group as a whole.
I'll start with one that's kind of hard to categorize because I think Wikipedia would call it an extreme sports game, but the Tony Hawk games, gonna talk about them again. They were extremely formative video games for me. Like, I think like extreme sports is like the more or less correct term for it.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a friend who argues that Tony Hawk is a fighting game because it has a combo system and you can play head to head. But like he's shit posting. Don't worry about it.
That's an interesting take.
Tetris and Puyo Puyo are fighting games then.
Yes.
Hell yeah.
Yes, exactly. But no, it's like those games were huge for me growing up, and I liked. There was other shit like in a similar vein, like SSX Tricky, that was really cool. It's not something I ever really like went too far out of my way to seek out because Tony Hawk pretty much like scratched the itch perfectly, and like nothing else quite felt the same, especially when it came to like the general vibe and soundtrack of the games. But I mean, I think on the whole, I do like sports games, but like usually if there's some sort of like flair or like uniqueness to it that makes it stand out from just like realistic sports game. But even then I did, you know, I was into realistic sports games when I was a kid specifically, and I feel like a lot of fans of like baseball video games would agree with me on this. MVP Baseball 2004 and 2005 are like the best, like in terms of like realistic sports games, they're like the best games ever made. Like
I haven't played those ones.
They were on the GameCube and PS2, I think.
The major baseball game that I remember playing was MLB Slugfest 2003 was like the one that I played.
I have played that one a little bit, but I never owned it. I do remember.
I just thought it was funny that the game series had like instances where the ball or the bat could be on fire. So I was like, oh, this is fun. Yeah. So like.
I mean, just like shit like that, like power-ups or like, you know, crazy wacky shit happening is like, that's what makes sports games fun.
That's why I mean, that's what I like about like the sports games that I've played. Cause like, that's why like when it comes to golf games, I can't play like not cartoony ass golf games. Like there are some.
It's not as fun.
There are some really good like golfing, like realistic golf games out there, I'm sure. But like it's just not as fun as like popping in Hot Shots Golf and just listening to the caddies say stupid shit and like hitting the ball and then watching like some like these like 2D Parappa the Rapper ass looking crude graphic crowds like disperse because you almost hit them with the ball. Like it's just fun.
The Mario sports games were a big thing for me as a kid. Like, oh yeah, like Mario Super Slug Mario Superstar Baseball is the GameCube one. Mario Super Sluggers is the Wii game. Let's see. Super Mario Strikers and Mario Strikers Charged are both classics. Any of the Mario golf games. Toadstool Tour specifically.
I think I still have my copy of Toadstool Tour.
What a great game. Let's see. I feel like there's another one. Oh, Mario Tennis. Mario Power Tennis. Just, you know, I like sports games. Like, sports games are fun, but they need to have some sort of, like, you know, unrealistic, like, cartoony flair to it to make it, like, more fun. Yeah. I mean, like, I was into the backyard sports games a lot when I was a kid too, and those were like, before I played like actual video games, those are like probably the actual like oldest games I've played.
That's one of the reasons why I was able to play the WWE games on the PS2, because just the fact that they have like all these, like WWE at the time itself was just ridiculous. Like you had these all these weird ass matchup styles. Like everything was so over the top. I mean, they were coming off of the Attitude Era, and like so the games just kind of followed that. So I liked the ridiculousness of the WWE PS2 games. They're just a lot of fun. Like Here Comes the Pain, SmackDown vs. Raw, SmackDown vs. Raw 2006, like those three back to back are like some of my favorites.
I agree. NCAA Football 2005 is definitely the best realistic sports game.
That is a good one, actually.
Did you play that?
That was the one I owned on PlayStation 2. I played a stupid amount of that game.
Trying to think of MLB Power Pros. They still fucking make those games in Japan, but they've only ever localized 2 of them to the United States, and it makes me sad because they are like actually really fucking good baseball games. But yeah, never saw more than 2 entries in the US.
All right,
they were on the Wii and PS2.
Before we jump to Landon giving us a genre that's more unique to him, we'll go with this first because you already have it out, but we're going to do our housekeeping that we usually do. Just take a bit of a break from the conversation. But Landon, you already have Tillamook.
Wow. Way to not just throw it to me on the genre so I can make a joke.
You can make the joke
Tillamook.
after we're done.
Tillamook is my favorite genre.
Oh. All right.
I mean, that's definitely what you were going to do.
Would you play a Tillamook video game?
Is it like a Pepsi Man style game where it's like absolutely just like advertisements the whole time?
Sure.
Tillamook.
Could you imagine like there's like different missions based on like different Tillamook products? You got some for like the...
I would play this.
You got some for like the soft serve. You got some for like the cheese. You got some for like all different shit that they sell.
The yogurt.
Yeah.
The cream cheese.
The sour cream.
The fucking cream cheese.
The cream cheese. You got that jalapeno, that honey jalapeno, baby. Let's go. Anyway, I got Neapolitan ice cream.
Nice.
So, you know,
classic.
Those classic 3 flavors. You know, you got your shit chocolate, your piss strawberry, and your cum vanilla.
Oh, okay.
The 3 flavors.
I would be very concerned if you were peeing pink, but, you know.
Takes bite
silently. But yeah, so let's give our usual housekeeping. So we are here on Twitch. If you're watching us live, thank you for tuning in. But this also goes out to other platforms. You've got our Spotify, you've got our Apple Podcasts, you've got Amazon Music. We probably should check those more than we do, which is none of the time. But
true.
I just checked. I just use the RSS to export the audio. That's all I know.
I know it goes out because it goes onto my podcast feed.
Yeah, I've used it on Spotify a little bit.
I've definitely listened to the podcast on Spotify.
Yeah, so I mean, you can reach out to us on Discord though if you actually want to join our Discord. We've got our link in the description, link in the show notes. I don't know what the cool kids are calling it nowadays. Probably show notes. We also have a YouTube where this VOD will actually go out to. So if you prefer to watch us actually like articulate everything with facial expressions and everything and are not able to view us live on Twitch, you can catch us on YouTube as well. So we've got that. We've got a Patreon.
All of our VODs go to YouTube.
Exactly. We've got a Patreon, patreon.com/GamingStooges. We're doing a lot of cool stuff on there right now.
Not really.
Yes, we are.
Now we are.
Yeah. We are doing a very fun Delta Green campaign. And Landon, did you want to tell the folks at home a little bit about that campaign?
Sure. I sure can, Cloud. I sure can. Delta Green, for those who don't know, is it's a role playing. It's a role playing game.
Role playing, hootin', hollering, tabletop turning.
It's a tabletop turning role playing game where you play with dice and you tell a story. In this, it's very, it's like Call of Cthulhu meets the X-Files, where you've got your people that are police adjacent, trying to take care of whatever weird shit is happening. We are currently playing through Extremophilia, and the boys are in the thick of it. We just recently recorded part 5. Part 4 just went up on our Patreon, and we're probably going to be ending it with the part after that. It'll be a 6-part bonanza. It is specifically for our gold tier Stooges. We want to shout out probably Pixel Vixen for still being a gold tier Stooge. I'm doing that without checking. I'm sure Cloud is checking right now.
I am indeed trying to check right now, but for some stupid reason, the mobile app does not allow me to see the actual list of people.
Well, it's probably Pixel Vixen.
Yes.
He is our gold tier Stooge. I've been really enjoying running Delta Green. I hope these two have been moderately, engaged slightly in the story that they're telling.
I'll say
I've been entertained.
I've been enjoying it. I always forget when we're going to actually do the recording until like the night of, when Landon's like, "Okay, guys, ready for Delta Green tonight," and I'm like, "Shit, I forgot about it." But when
why he does it.
But when we do it, I do have a good time.
It's true. I purposely say, and I might say it vaguely, I'll say, I'm going to be home and ready by 5:30.
Yeah.
And that's my cue for, like...
Yeah. And then I'll be like...
And Cloud's like,
Wednesday.
what are we doing tonight?
And then I'll be like, wait a minute, what?
Yeah. So, but yes, it's been a lot of fun. I've been toying with some ideas of how we can make it available for people that are not, gold tier Stooges. Patreon has ways to sell things, so maybe after it's done, we'll package it with Last Things Last and have it available. We might also talk about other ways for it to be uploaded down the road. But as it stands, it is a lot of fun. They've been doing a really good job with it. I'm excited to see how it ends, honestly.
Yeah. We also have a lot more stuff on there. We've got a bunch of different tier lists. We've been going back and forth to various generations of Pokemon and ranking all of the Pokemon in that generation. We have done the first 3 so far. We're going to come back around for Gen 4 when we do a Gen 4 podcast. We've been doing this thing now where we just kind of do them hand in hand. We also have one of our first ones was Tales of the Collection, where we just showed off a bunch of games that we own and talk about them. So we've got a bunch of other stuff on there too. We got a Kirby tax alignment tier list, tax alignment chart.
I forgot that we did that.
That was a really interesting one, to be honest. So yeah, and like Landon said, when we do certain sets of content, we'll probably package that together as we finish compilations and put them out. So even if you are not a gold tier Stooge, you can get delayed access to all that content for decent value. But if you are at the $6 tier, you do get all that stuff just right out. You get the shout out, of course. You got Pixel Vixen supporting us at that tier. But even if you're just a silver Stooge, you also do get to vote in our polls, and you help decide the direction of the channel's content. Right now, this episode we're doing actually literally voted on by patrons. I was kind of surprised that this was the winner of the poll. When the poll went out, I was like, I'm pretty sure Console Wars is going to win. I'm pretty sure we're going to end up talking about Super Nintendo and Genesis first thing. And no, people wanted to hear about our preferences for genres, so here we're talking about it. Speaking of, though, I wanted to get back to Landon. Landon, it's your turn to actually give us a more unique genre for you and how you got into it.
It was the Tillamook ice cream.
That was it.
Yeah, that was all I was gonna say was Tillamook ice cream.
That's all you got?
Damn. I can talk about another one if you.
I mean, Landon's got genres I'm sure he likes. I mean, he likes a lot of block puzzle games, specifically Tetris, but still. He's got rhythm games.
I've never played a video game in my life.
He's like, what am I doing on this podcast?
Mr. GamingStooges is a fraud.
It come out. Mr. GamingStooges is fraud. Let's see. I mean, I'll talk about one that is kind of there in my life. It's definitely not a big one, but there are some games in it I like, and that would be like, even if we just go like shooters in general, like first person, third person.
Yeah.
Like, I would say that's not a genre I'm super into.
More than me anyway.
But there are like the smallest handful of games that I have come to enjoy over the years.
True.
And I don't even remember what I guess maybe the thing that sticks out the most is Metroid Prime, and watching my brother, like, specifically the room where the ghost Chozos come out after you get the X-ray visor, and it's the giant, like,
the big statue that like throws you.
No, I think it was the room I am thinking of.
Oh wait, no, the one with like the. Oh, okay, yeah. I remember
the giant cylindrical room where you have to do a lot of vertical platforming. Like, that's the room that like comes to my mind when I think of like my first experiences watching, like, experiencing Metroid. Is that room with the Metroid, like with the X-ray visor.
Nice.
And I think because of that, I was like I got into Metroid because of that. And it's like sort of the pass when it comes to first person shooters. But like I don't really play them at all. Titanfall 2 is like the exception to the rule.
Titanfall 2 is good.
Titanfall 2 is an excellent, like, it has a really good story campaign.
Yeah.
It's sad that...
I mean, you played a couple of the Borderlands games.
Borderlands, but those are more in the, like, RPG side of it. Because
True.
they definitely, like...
Yeah,
they are
heavy RPG elements, yeah.
Yeah.
They kind of, I would say, kind of toe the line between, like, first-person shooter and Western RPG, because, like, the elements are there for sure, but, like...
Yeah.
It's not a straight-up RPG, I would say.
No. But it's definitely... When I think Borderlands, I really don't even, like, think about it as a shooter, which is weird. Which you could say the same for, like, Metroid Prime games. They're not really... They're not
shooters.
They're not shooters.
It's more like a first-person adventure game, but with the shooter gameplay to it.
Yeah, it's just a first-person Metroidvania. So, but yeah, and then like with Borderlands, they're first-person.
So basically,
Western
it has to have some weird
RPGs.
angle to it that's not specifically rooted in shooter genre for you to like kind of have something to grab onto.
I would say the only three first-person shooter games that are like just actual like shooter games. Well, 4. Titanfall 2, easy, like first one.
Mm-hmm.
Doom, specifically the ones I got into were Doom 2 and Doom 2016.
Classic.
Both are like solid like shooters. And then this is where we get into a little bit like the weird, like, not weirder stuff, but like stuff that's way more out there. The Conduit for the Wii.
Okay.
Fuck yeah.
That is definitely a video game.
I remember you talking about the Conduit quite a bit.
I even played that online. And then another, this is actually one of my first online games. It's not Conduit the Wii, but one of the first games I played online, Rainbow Six Vegas on the 360.
Nice.
For some reason, I really got into that. I remember staying up all night playing that game online with people, and just enjoying it. And I think my hatred for Elder Scrolls also stems from this game, because it was my brother's system, my brother's game, and he traded that in for, I think it was Morrowind. Wait.
Was it Morrowind or Oblivion? Oblivion was on the 360.
It might have been Oblivion. It was either 3 or 4. It was probably Oblivion, because I'm sure that came out pretty early into the 360's life cycle.
Yeah, it was like 2006, I think.
Yeah, so then it probably was that, because it was around that time that.
Okay.
Yeah, but like I'm sure like part of my like just like innate hatred for Elder Scrolls just stems from him selling his copy of Rainbow Six Vegas that he had every right to do, but I enjoyed playing it.
You felt personally
in exchange
offended by it.
you not only like fell out of love with first-person shooters as a result of this, but also you gained a hatred for the Elder Scrolls.
Yeah, and like
That's
action
awesome.
RPGs in general. Because if you think of it, it's very rare for me to like an action RPG. It is very hard for me to like an action RPG.
I mean, Borderlands?
And it's like one of the few.
More
really,
the exception than the
it's
rule.
another exception. Like, if you give me a list of RPGs, or if I give you a list of RPGs, a lot of them are going to be turn-based in some fashion, at the very least. So, who knows? Maybe I would be like more into action RPGs if it wasn't for that.
That's interesting.
If only.
Speaking of shooters, I'm trying to think myself. Like I used to play first-person shooters a little bit more. Because I mean, I used to play a lot of GoldenEye 007 back on the N64 with friends.
Yep.
I would play quite a bit of Halo and Halo 2. Played quite a bit of Halo 3, Halo Reach. But as far as like and I mean, there's Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 that I played a bit. I don't know what it was, but like I just kind of stopped playing them as much. And I guess it's just because I don't care for first-person games in general. Because I don't know what it is. I feel like I enjoy a game more when I have a visual perspective, like a visual of the character I'm in control of. Like I don't know. For me, it feels like I can put myself in the world more. It's kind of weird because it's like when you're in first person, it's like you're supposed to like, it's you moving around, but like I actually am more detached from a game experience when I am in that position. It's kind of weird.
I get what you mean.
Yeah.
I think like shooters in general, I was not big into shooters when I was a kid. Like I would never like have a strong desire to own them, but like I was always down to play them with my friends because like, I would play a lot of GoldenEye when I was a kid. I, got into Halo because I had friends that had an Xbox, and
they're great social games.
For some, yeah, for sure. And like I feel almost like a resentment towards first-person shooters when I was in school, just because like, especially once the 360 came out, like
that's what people talked about.
It's all fucking people talked about. Like growing, I imagine. I mean, I don't know what the fuck like kids in school talk about these days aside from Fortnite, but like when I was growing up, from like after the 360 came out, everyone in school had a fucking 360, and like the only thing anyone ever played on it were Call of Duty and maybe Halo if they were like slightly more into video games than the average person. But like I swear to God, everyone had a 360, and I'm not exaggerating. Like I was one of the extremely few kids that did not, and I just was not super into, I mean, like realistic shooters.
The 360 is one of the United States' best-selling systems of all time, so I'm not surprised.
Yeah. And like I can look back and say like Call of Duty 4, Modern Warfare, and Modern Warfare 2, and Black Ops, and Black Ops 2. Like, those are good games. Like, I can pick one of those up if I'm playing with friends and have a good time playing them. But, like, at the time, I just had, like, a resentment towards them because I was the one kid whose main system was the Wii, and everyone made fun of me for it.
I think for me, now that I think about it, my, like, falling out with like first-person shooters is because I liked being able to play them with friends. Like, yeah, I would dabble with like more like story-driven, campaign-focused stuff. Like I did play Wolfenstein back because I had a laptop that had Wolfenstein on it. So like I played like some more like single player focused stuff like that, but like I always had more fun playing it with people. But there was a phase of my life where I didn't play video games with like anybody, so I think at that point I just stopped playing first person shooters because it was just a genre I associated with playing with friends. I didn't have Landon's position where it was like I was playing Metroid Prime and stuff like that, where like I had a good amount of story-driven, single-player focused games in that genre for me to stay engaged with it.
Yeah. I would say I definitely, if I had to choose one or the other, third-person shooters tend to be like what I would lean towards if I had to pick one of the two, because you have stuff like Star Wars Battlefront. I mean, yeah, Star Wars Battlefront you could choose between first or third, but I remember playing that like exclusively in third person. Like some of the like later Resident Evils, Resident Evil 4, 5, 6 are all 4, 5, and 6 are all like third person over the shoulder like shooters.
Yeah.
Those I would say are like some of the big ones that like I remember playing and like enjoying. Yeah, if I had to pick a lean, definitely because of Star Wars Battlefront, Battlefront 2, because Battlefront 2 was one of the 4 games on the PlayStation 2 that I played religiously. I went through and I unlocked every perk under every class. Like, I grinded the fucking shit out of every single class.
God damn.
Yeah. There's a reason why when we played that, like, it was you, Justin, and I, right? Who played that?
Yeah. We played it on, like, Steam.
There was a reason, like, even though I hadn't played in years, like, I still, like, was pretty decent at it.
Yeah. No, I remember you being good at it.
I, like, it was definitely, like, it's... part like definitely I liked Star Wars growing up, but like it is like the capsule of like that is Star Wars to me, is like Star Wars Battlefront 2. Pandemic Star Wars Battlefront 2 is like, that's it.
That is Star Wars in a video game.
Yeah, and it was great. I loved it. So yeah.
I want to go around just one more time and just have like a quick mention of like one more genre that's kind of just something that like stuck with you.
Hey.
Hi.
I have one.
You have one.
Rhythm games.
Yeah.
We haven't really talked about that much yet. And it's not, you'd be surprised, it's not just Guitar Hero and Rock Band for me, although those were big for me growing up. But like, I had Donkey Konga, I have the fucking bongos. One thing, like before anything though, before like Guitar Hero, Rock Band, whatever, DDR was like one of my favorite games as a kid, because like I never owned it personally, but like I feel like I say this for a lot of this shit, but I had friends, I had connections, which is how I experienced a lot of this shit growing up. But like I had a friend with like a DDR mat for PS2, and like that shit is so fun. And I think I've told the story on podcast before, but like during my I want to say it was 5th and 6th grade elementary school years, we had like in one of the things we did in gym class was DDR, and we had a DDR competition in the 6th grade for the entire school, and I got first place.
Nice.
Granted, it was 2 plays of the easiest song on the game, and I got a perfect score both times, so I got first place by default. But there was only one other kid that got 2 perfects, so but anyway, DDR was big for me as a kid. But obviously, like the first like Guitar Hero or Rock Band that I owned personally was Rock Band 2, and I got like the full band kit, and that was a huge one for me. I sunk hours upon hours on like all instruments in that game. I didn't even like play it with other people that much. Like I mostly played by myself. I want to build off of what you said with that. But like I just played it a shit ton. Like it just never got old to me for some reason. So for me, rhythm games, I'm more of like specifically a like music game person, where it's like I have to know the music or like the music. So like I won't like it, like I won't say that I don't like these games, but I am not somebody that's like Landon that can go out and find rhythm games that like, you know, have know nothing, you know, and just be like, oh yeah, this is a good game, and like just really get into them. I have to like have something that I like. So like I like playing the Hatsune Miku Project Diva games. They're actually solid, but it's because I like the songs. I like I like a lot of the songs from Guitar Hero 1, 2, and 3.
I used to play Guitar Hero 1 and 2 and 3 a lot with friends, actually. So that was how I played Guitar Hero. I also would play a lot of Beatles Rock Band with my friend. We would just switch off songs. We would all take turns. We would, take the guitar, we'd play through a song, go to the next person, just kind of rotate and just jam out. And that goes to all of those games in those like 2 franchises. My first rhythm game, though, I'm trying to think, because I don't think it was either one of those. I don't think it was any of those games. I'm trying to remember what my first exposure was. But like I have to like the thing I'm saying is I have to like the music most of the time. Like, I do really like Elite Beat Agents, but the reason that I like Elite Beat Agents, part of it is like the wacky characters and the story behind it, but I partially like it because of the weird song, like the list of songs that they put into it. So like it always has to go back to like, do I care about the material? Like Super Beat Sonic has a lot of really fun songs, so like I can
thinking back.
I want to pick that game up again because I haven't played in a while, but like I liked playing it because the songs in it were good. Remembering, there's no way out. But yeah. But for me, one more genre I wanted to talk about, and I mean, I'm sure it's a genre that everybody's had some dabbling in because of the flagship franchise that's in there, is racing games, but specifically kart racers. Because I realized even before I decided to start playing a bunch of kart racers for a video that will probably never come out, I used to play a lot of kart racers. Like I played a little bit of Crash Team Racing. I was always a Mario Kart person, like anchored in, like that's how I played kart racers. But I branched out into some Crash Team Racing at one point. I branched out into that Looney Tunes. I don't think it was Looney Tunes Space Race. There was 2 Looney Tune kart racers on the PS1. But I remember just vividly playing as Marvin the Martian a lot. Like that was my dude. I fucked with Marvin the Martian. I just liked using him. There was Walt Disney Magic Racing Tour that I mentioned. I played as Jiminy Cricket after I unlocked him, like religiously. I don't know why I like Jiminy Cricket so much. In fact, I remember like getting really fucking excited when I was playing Kingdom Hearts and Jiminy Cricket was a major like side character of the game. I was like, yeah, let's go Jiminy Cricket!
Oh, so you like Jiminy Cricket before Kingdom Hearts?
Hell yeah, because of the fucking racing game that I played as him in.
I would have assumed it was the other way around.
Nope, it was because of the racing game, and then when he was in like Kingdom Hearts, I was like really fucking excited for that.
That's badass.
Yeah. But I like those. I played that Banjo Pilot on the GBA when I like briefly swapped games with somebody. And like I've played a lot of other games since, but like those were like just a handful of games that I played as a kid that were all in that genre. And it was something like my mom, my aunt, like we all just liked those weird wacky racing games. So like I'll always have a special place in my heart for kart racers just because of that, and I think it's why I like want to get into more of them. Like that's why I like more modern kart racers, like the Sonic and All Stars racing games. Like those are really fun games to get into because they have all of that just appeal. So I wanted to bring up kart racers because I think it is a very big top genre that I feel like would be really weird to not talk about in this podcast.
Yeah, I mean,
like I could talk about other genres, but like they don't just leave an impression on me like the way that the genres that I talked about did. So, shoot 'em ups, kart racers. Those are
I'd
two
say
that
one that I got into
to find random games in
far more recently is.
You got anything else, Len?
Kind of like I'm going to throw a large wide net. Is visual novels, like cinematic style, like visual based adventure games. Essentially, your Ace Attorneys, your Supermassive Games, your
Ace Attorneys.
Yeah, the nonary games. Yeah.
And that's Zero Escape, your
Ghost Trick.
I played Famicom Detective Club,
You
Mio,
you started
Smiling
playing
Man
the
game.
Famicom Detective
like so
Club games,
that's like a genre I have like started to play more of. I definitely played point and click games when I was a kid, and so that's probably where it stems from. Yeah,
like a rabbit hole effect.
Yeah, that's.
I mean, like
that's where like a lot of that came from.
I mean, did you also play the Humongous
that,
Entertainment point and click games? Yeah. Like,
and then the car one.
Same. Like Pajama Sam and Sly Fox.
That's I think it's,
Freddy Fish.
I think that's his legal name. Yeah.
Putt Putt.
So like those games I played like as
Putt
a kid.
Putt fuck. Putt Putt goes to fuck.
And then I didn't play I think a single point and click style game until Machinarium came out, which it is a fantastic point and click game. I love that game so much.
I've never heard of that game.
I've heard of that game.
I highly recommend checking it out. If you like point and click games, it is a great one in that genre. And then I think after that, I didn't really play a whole lot in this style of gaming until probably either Tales from the Borderlands or Until Dawn. Like those, no, because I played that for Spookfest. That was the first time I actually played that one. Yeah. So
The Wolf Among Us.
Tales from the Borderlands and Until Dawn were like the first two like re-entries back in.
Really? Okay.
And then I think shortly after that, you got me the Ace Attorney collection, and that definitely spearheaded the whole addiction.
Yeah.
Probably. I really like those games. And then
this is all Jack's fault.
Probably the best gift I've ever gotten you.
Now, I'm not into those games myself, but I have to imagine the appeal is that like they're just really easy games to just pick up and just kind of like go through, because like it doesn't require much
like
more than just your
within
attention.
this genre requires at least
attention and some critical
thinking.
thinking.
I think this like on the scale of like point and click being on like the one far side, and then I would say whatever the fuck super massive games and like the Telltale games are, like they're kind of on the opposite sides, and definitely critical thinking goes much further when you go towards the point and click. And Ace Attorney and the Notary games, Zero Escape games, and Ghost Trick are closer to point and click, and less so towards supermassive games and like just your standard visual novels.
Somewhere in the middle.
A lot of times they're like on that side. Like, yeah. That's my feeling on it. Because, you're dating visual novel where you just are reading text and then like clicking a dialogue option. I would say I lean
so you like a very specific
like,
subgenre of that overall
side,
genre.
But I love the fucking popcorn that is whatever Supermassive Games does, because it is popcorn. It is the popcorn of video games.
Yeah.
It is easy.
It's
doesn't matter.
It really
what
is
the
just
fuck
like popcorn.
You
really
get
is.
the credits at the end, which is perfect. I love that. And that's I think we talked about this last year during Spookfest, our October Spookfest episode where we were talking about horror games. I love those games because I can have I don't have to invest.
Yeah.
I have to invest time. And usually the what I receive back from that is just like popcorn. It's it's easy and it's a dumb fun time.
It's not obviously not you're not going to get Oscar caliber writing or voice acting, but and that's not what you're here for. You're here to have fun and watch a goofy horror movie.
Yeah, you're not. It's like if the more point and click and the more analytical versions of those games.
Yeah, it is
are,
100,
like, your
100%
sense of, like,
entertainment.
accomplishment, fulfillment,
And then,
in
like,
that genre.
Your
The other
more
side's
standard
just
visual
pure
novel
entertainment.
is like
Yeah.
a step over from that, I feel like. And I've played a couple in that genre, Katawa Shoujo being like probably the big one. And like
Yeah.
it doesn't really do a whole lot for me.
Katawa Shoujo.
I like having like other bits of gameplay, and so like your Famicom Detective Clubs, your Professor Layton's, your Ace Attorney, your Zero Escape games, like those have more going on than like a strict visual novel. So like I usually I would lean towards that.
Yeah.
Or like just jump over and just like.
Okay. Yeah, it's like I'd like either like 80 plus or like 0. I don't need anything from 1 to 79.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good way of putting it. That's a pretty good way of putting it. I mean, like maybe not for that genre, but I'm sure like Jack, if you thought of something like you'd have something similar for yourself and like the way that you like to play games. And like for me, I like that sort of thing with like. I guess with like certain like turn-based RPGs, like I like something where I like either have a ton of strategy, or sometimes I just like the dumb, easy, okay, if I just click the attack button, I just win sort of thing occasionally. Like I like some on like both ends. It's really weird.
I guess I'm kind of like that with. No, I thought I was going somewhere with that, but I don't know. I was gonna say RPGs. And say, like, I like the harder ones, like the SMTs, and I like the piss-easy ones, like the Pokemons, and, like, the middle ground stuff is where I don't really get into it that much, but honestly, even, like, the SMTs that I like aren't that hard, so it's kind of a moot point.
Yeah. Okay.
I thought I had something, but I didn't.
So, I think that's a pretty good amount of discussion on different genres of games. We've covered a lot of bases. Obviously, there's so many genres. We could be here all day.
We didn't talk about porn games!
Oh my god.
Oh shit. That's the Patreon exclusive podcast.
Yeah, that's the bonus content. But I think that's about it. Do we have enough time to like do like a quick like wrap up and
why do you have to make me talk more?
That's up to Landon. He's got to cut this.
You can talk more if you want.
Oh,
I'm giving you the option.
Jack,
what have you been up to?
You're just gonna look really disgusted the entire time.
He's gonna look like he shit himself.
What does that mean?
I don't know.
Anyway, hey, I said I was going to do this last podcast, like the upcoming weekend. From the last podcast, but it happened in the last 2 weeks. Excuse me, I burped. Let's see, the weekend of the 12th, the 11th, 12th, 13th, my dad and I, my dad and I went down to Nashville. I had never been to Nashville before. It was an experience. We mostly went to see Jason Isbell play at the Ryman Auditorium down there. We saw him twice because he does a full fucking residency there, and we saw him both on Saturday and Sunday night. We also went to the Colts game down there because I am a Colts fan, and they were playing in Tennessee that weekend, so it worked out. Honestly, the thing about Nashville that surprised me the most is that it is surprisingly easy to get around. Like, you would think like a city that's growing as big and fast as that one would be like a fucking nightmare for traffic, but it's not terrible. Like, I was expecting like Chicago bad, but it's not even like Detroit bad. Like, it's surprisingly well regulated. On like at night though, they're just like people, like thousands of people just like on the streets partying for no reason. Like, no events, no actual like anything going on, but like, I'm so serious, like they had an entire street closed off. Like, the entire street right next to where the hockey arena is was like just closed off because there's just thousands of people on the streets just like partying.
That makes sense.
Nuts. It's overwhelming, honestly. I don't fucking know. But but no, I had fun. I got to see my sister that lives down there, who I hadn't seen in a while, so we had a good time.
Okay.
And also, a few games came out not a few games came out in the past couple weeks. I got Zelda and Animal in the past couple weeks, but recently the new Mario Party came out, and I have been playing some of it with Bethany.
I have not had the chance. I have not had the chance to play it.
I'm
I
sorry.
don't even own it yet.
It's okay. Mini review, like very short review. The mini games are really good. Like, it is like really, really high quality mini games. The boards are good. Like, I do like the boards that we've played on so far. The problem that I have with the game is that it plays at like the speed of Super Mario Party. So like games can take a while. Like, what is in like Mario Party Superstars, like a 20 turn game is probably an hour and 15 minutes, give or take. In this game, a 20 turn game is like well over 2 hours, like teetering on 2.5. Like, but you can alleviate some of that by turning the text speed all the way up to fast, and you can change your opponent's speed to fast, but for some reason your own player character movement speed is unaffected, which is weird. I kind of wish they would just make the whole thing faster, but it's still fun. I mean, like, I had a great time. I've had a great time with it so far, but yeah. Expect streams of this in the future.
Trying to think where we cut off the last episode, what I was up to. In case I didn't mention it, I had been playing through parts of all games. I started Final Fantasy Mystic Quest. I still haven't finished it yet because I know last week I had to replay through the game because I accidentally screwed up my save through my Retron, where I thought that I had it saved onto the Retron. So no, I thought that I had it. Yeah, I thought that I had it saved on the cartridge, and then I was going to copy it to the Retron, but it actually had already saved to the Retron. So when I copied the save from the cartridge to the Retron, I then had to restart my game. But I'm probably about 60% of the way through the game. I'm about to end the Fire Crystal area, which is the third area. There's 4 areas for like the 4 crystals, because, you know, Final Fantasy game. And then there's like a final segment that comes after. So I want to say about 60% of the way through the game. I also played through, and I was actually really surprised I played through it so fast, the original Phantasy Star through the Sega Ages release. That's a really good release for the game. I will say, mini review, it holds up pretty well if you play the Ages release because of the little quality of life features it adds. Even then, though, it does show its age where, like, you can just accidentally put yourself in a position where you can't finish the game. So I definitely suggest a guide, but other than that, like, gameplay-wise, it's really solid. It's got these very detailed, like, battle screens. It's got a very, like, Dragon Quest style to, like, the battles, where it's, like, front on. Although, because it was like a really low powered system, like they only have like, so like they have it so like you can fight like a ton of enemies, but it's only ever one type of enemy at a time. And they like signal more of that enemy by just having a list of their HP. If you have, so like you could fight like 1 scorpion, or you could fight like 6, and it'll be the same one sprite, but it might just say like, you know, HP, and then like whatever HP value, like 6 times down if you fight 6 of them. So it's pretty interesting, but it's very basic since it's a Master System game. But I'll say, like, for a game of its era, it's really solid. So like I liked it. Characters were pretty fun. So I'm gonna be getting these Phantasy Star 2 at some point. That's gonna be interesting. So yeah, just that. I picked up the new, so there's a Magic the Gathering manga, and we actually finally got the first volume released out here, outside of Japan. It's called "Destroy All Humans, They Can't Be Regenerated," which is a nod to the text of the card Wrath of God, which says "Destroy all creatures that can't be regenerated." So, yeah, it's a pretty fun. It's got like a Yu-Gi-Oh style to it, but it's Magic the Gathering instead for the manga. So it's pretty fun. I like it. I started watching an anime called Dandadan, which apparently has quite a following as a manga and anime.
Been hearing a lot about that.
I did not know that it had a big following, but my girlfriend and I are watching it, and it's really freaky, but it's really fun. It's like a super. I think you would like it, Jack, because it's got like the level of like ridiculousness and hapticness as like Fooly Cooly, but it centers around like aliens and ghosts, spirits. But you still have like that. You still have that like main female, main male, like fighting together to like take on these weird phenomena sort of angle to it. And it does have like that level of ridiculousness to it. So like if you like Fooly Cooly, I think that's like the closest comparison I can make.
I mean, I fucking love Fooly Cooly.
Yeah, I think you'd like Dawn to Dawn. I think you should give it a shot.
I'll keep that in mind.
Yeah, it's good. And then started watching Dragon Ball Daima, the new Dragon Ball anime. It's pretty cool shit. It's pretty cool shit. I love the art. The art and animation is so gorgeous. It's fun. It's a nice, lighthearted series. You got like this like Majin from the Demon Realm, who's basically like the next in line to take it over after Deborah and Majin Buu are eliminated, and he decides to turn everybody into children because he's too evil to wish them to be dead. That was his solution. That's why they're kids. because he couldn't kill them. So it's really good. I'm not going to give away anything else. I've only watched the first 2 episodes because there's only 2 out so far as of when we're I'm talking about it. So I'm excited for more episodes. Other than that, like, not a whole lot new. I mean, I've been like flipping around a bunch of different anime, just playing a bunch of different games, playing stuff that I haven't gotten to yet. Like, I'm going back to like Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu. I started watching the Ace Attorney anime, so I've just kind of been all over the place. Landon's been dancing.
I looked at the GamingStooges YouTube channel history, and I can see what he's been listening to.
Yeah,
Really?
I am.
He's
Shout out
currently
to
listening to
Xenoblade
Time to Fight
Chronicles
by
Future
Honest's
Connected
Shoulder
OST.
from Xenoblade Chronicles Future
Fantastic.
Connected.
Okay.
Did I beat Zelda after the last podcast?
True.
Okay, I beat Zelda Echoes of Wisdom. That game's fun. I played
I
and
think
beat
so.
I think you
Cocoon.
did, yeah.
That game's fun. I started Animal Well. I feel sorry for Animal Well because I'm dropping it for now. Not because it's bad, but because Ys 10 Nordics. Yeah, Ys 10 Nordics comes out this week, baby, and
because
I
Ys 10.
I cannot wait.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I feel that like the reason for I feel the same way about like Mario Party Jamboree as I would play it. I would try to get it. But Sonic Cross
I'm
Shadow
buying
Generations
that
comes out this Friday,
that comes out
and that's the only game that's going to have my attention for a little bit.
Yeah, I need to get that too.
I'm going to lock it up and throw it away.
And you are not
I
touching it
just-
right away.
Yes, because I don't I don't care.
You're buying it on
Also,
the Switch, right?
I played Frontiers on the Switch,
Yeah.
and it was
I'm going to get it
fine.
on PS5.
Oh no. You can buy it on the PS5. I'm just saying,
I know. I
know what I'm
want
gonna
like
get
a
into,
reason
and
to
I don't
like
care.
have PS5 games. So.
I don't care. No, because I'd have to play it on the PlayStation 5.
You don't care about
No.
the slightly better graphical fidelity.
My Switch is right here. I'd have to go to
I'm
a
not trying to win
totally
you
different
over.
room in order to play. That's just too far when I can just play Ys 10 Nordics right now.
Yeah, that's fair.
Nintendo, where's our sponsorship money? We're literally
Oh, you
giving
guys are still
people the
here?
best reasons to own a Switch. Not having to get up to go to another room? Come on.
Exactly. And that's our show.
That's our show.
Roll the outro.
roll the outro. Yeah, goodbye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Gaming Stooges Talks podcast. If you enjoyed us, consider subscribing to our podcast RSS feed, or follow us on youtube.com/GamingStooges and twitch.tv/GamingStooges for more gaming content. If you'd like to chat with us, join our Discord. The link can be found in the episode description. We also want to thank all of our Patreon supporters. Your continued support means a lot to us. Not already one? Please take a look at what we have to offer anyone who becomes a patron at patreon.com/GamingStooges. See you next time!